Please welcome Project Leader for Automated and Connected Vehicles and Safety, Maria Cristina Galassi, joining us on Teams now. She should be there. Maria Cristina, welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. So first of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this important event, and my apologies for not being able to be there in person with you. But today I would like to share with you some updates on how EU is advancing and regulating connected, cooperative, and automated mobility. So I hope, yes, I can see the slides. I hope you can see it as well. So let me start. We have currently available two main pieces of regulation in Europe for the type approval of automated vehicles. The first one was indeed adopted already in 2020 at United Nations and is the so-called ALKS regulation, UN Regulation 157, covering level 3 vehicles. And then we adopted in 2022 our ADS regulation, so for the type approval of fully driverless vehicles, automated driving system indeed, which is available from summer 2022 and so already applicable in Europe. Next slide, please. So starting with more details on UN Regulation 157, as I mentioned, it was adopted in 2020 already some time ago. In its first original shape, it covered type approval of automated lane keeping system for low-speed highway application, the so-called traffic jam pilot. And it represented an important milestone for both regulators and the automotive industry because it was the first regulation to allow automated vehicles on road. And then it was amended in 2022 to also cover high speed and lane change. And so now we refer to this as highway chauffeur automated vehicles. And we already had in 2021 the first internationally valid approvals granted by Germany and Japan. We can go to the next slide, please. So about our EU regulation for automated driving system approval, this is EU regulation 1426. And in this slide, you can see a summary of the contents of the regulation. So this regulation builds on what was done in the past by member states, and in particular by Germany and France. And it allows the type approval of, as I said, fully driverless vehicles, so level 4 vehicles, under the small series scheme, so with a limitation of 1,500 registrations per vehicle model per year. And the use cases covered here are robotaxis, shuttles, hub-to-hub applications, and automated valet parking. And we already had a first national automated valet parking approval granted by Germany in 2022. So I have to say that this regulation is for the first time implementing innovative approaches that are being developed at United Nations. So we are fully in line with what is happening at global level. And you can see here we have not only defined the performance requirements, but also we have merged different methodologies for the compliant assessment. So here we have big changes compared to the past, and specifically how the type approval was granted before. We will have different phases. And that's why we also had the need to work further and releasing an interpretation document that you can see to the next slides. So the specificities of this regulation with the new approaches, new technologies, the complexity that is linked to this aspect, and also the need to have quite high-level requirements, not to indeed limit the flexibility of the regulation. This all led us to indeed work on this interpretation for a harmonized implementation of the regulation. So this document that you see here has been recently published in the form of an informal document. So it's a GRC report. It's not an official document endorsed by member states, because we still want to update it and to also include experience from the first step approvals that will be granted in the next future. And the aim of this document, is, as I said, not to add new requirements, but to clarify the text in some specific topics addressed by the regulation, and to also provide some additional technical guidance on all those new aspects where we understand that not really from industry side, but mainly from the authority side, new skills are to be developed. And again, here the aim is to facilitate the application of the interpretation of the new regulation through this interpretation document, and to ensure that we all have the same understanding on how this should happen. Next slide, please. Further to that, we understood that granting of EU type approval was only the first step to allow market deployment of these new technologies in Europe, because indeed a second step will be needed at national and local level. So here you see a list of aspects all related to transport licensing, meaning that indeed if even if, for example, a shuttle is granted EU type approval, it will still have to undergo through further screening and decision made at national level, and possibly also at the local level within the city where it will be operating. For example, on the selection of a suitable path or area for operation, or even before that, for the pre-deployment testing. And then the national authorities and so on and so forth. So the challenges are not all addressed yet. Next slide, please. And as you can see here, we will have indeed the different vehicles operating in a very different environment. And we will have to coordinate and collaborate not only at European level, but also with national and local authorities to make sure to have a common approach on that. For example, on the needed update for traffic rules, and because indeed the vehicles will have to be able to operate in different member states in different countries. And we do not have harmonized traffic rules because this is still under the responsibility of national authorities. And then they will be able to indeed operate in cities with different characteristics, but also in highway and rural environment. And so all of this will imply indeed a further effort at national and local level. Next slide, please. I hope you can still see and hear me. To address all these aspects, we have been conducting a series of workshops last year. And the summary of these discussions is collected in this draft report that will be published soon. Here you can see there will be several topics addressed. One that I mentioned is, for example, the procedure for manufacturers to access the pre-deployment testing in member states across Europe. We understood that indeed so far it has been quite difficult and time demanding for them because we have different approaches in different member states. And after this discussion, we understood this is something that we need to address and to provide an harmonized European approach. And then there is a long list of topics not solved yet that we will find in this report. And possibly this will be discussed in the future by a dedicated working group of legal experts from member state authorities. Next slide, please. And finally, I mentioned the approval is currently possible under the small series scheme, and we are now working towards the lifting of this limitation. So we want to move to unlimited series approval for this use case that I mentioned, starting with the automated valet parking, because it was a bit easier use case to be addressed. And we are working on that, aiming to deliver an amendment of the regulation by the end of this year or beginning of next year. And then the other use cases will follow in the next couple of years. So next slide, please. So this is my concluding slide. And here you can see a bit of summary of what I shared. Type approval of automated driving system is possible in Europe, and we will have to work not only at European level, but also to coordinate with the national and local authorities. We are providing guidance on the harmonized implementation of our regulation, and a first step was already done with the release of this interpretation document. And then we are working to move to large series approval, starting with automated valet parking. So that's all from my side, and I'm happy if you have questions to answer. Thank you very much.